Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. How are you all doing? My name is Amanda Ellis, and a very warm welcome to this channel. Whether you are a returning subscriber or whether you are new and have just stumbled upon my work, very welcome here. Do hit the like button and also hit the subscribe button, because if you find this video interesting, what I probably will be doing is having a more in-depth look at some of the subjects that we're going to be talking about in this overview video. Indeed, what I want to get through in this video is actually quite a lot of material. So I'm not sure, as I sit here starting this broadcast, whether I will need to split this into two parts or not. What we will be doing is having a look at the numerology of next year. We're going to be looking at the Chinese astrology of next year. I've been given a number of different subjects or themes that my guide, Archangel Metatron, particularly wants me to look at in this video, and which feel as though they're going to be front and center next year for all of us to look at. So I'm going to touch on where we are at with AI. I'm going to also be looking at, let me have a look at my notes here, the fall of celebrity is what I'm calling it, declining birth rates, UFO stroke soft disclosure, Canada and Trudeau, changes on the high street or the shape of how we live and shop, weather, Mother Earth changes, future pandemic energies, Donald Trump, royal family. I doubt I'm going to have much time to talk about the Pope and the portals being opened, but I might get to that. But some of these are big subjects. I'm going to be coming back to them. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel. It costs you nothing, and it just means that you have a chance of getting notified of future work. So where shall we start then? Where shall we start? Let's start actually with a number. So every single year has a number associated with it, a numerological number. The numerology of 2025 adds up to 9. So we're in a 9 year going forward from January the 1st. And 9 is associated with the planet Mars. It's also associated with the colour red. It's associated with a lot more as well, of course, but I want to firstly talk about those two separate things. And actually, whilst we're talking Mars, I have actually got a little piece of meteorite here, said to be from Mars. I mean, you're not going to be able to see it because it's tiny, okay? But I'm actually going to hold this as I'm talking about number 9 and Mars energy. One of the first things to say is that Mars is a masculine energy. So themes around the masculine are going to be very centre stage next year. Mars is also associated with the energy of war or potential war. This also includes the war that we have within ourselves. I'd like to say at the outset of this video that when we talk about certain things that potentially can happen, it doesn't mean that they will happen, because I'd like to remind you that you are a master manifester, and the collective consciousness responds to your breath, is what Metatron is calling it. Indeed, at this point, actually, let me just bring in something else linked into all of this. We'll come back to the numerology. One of the things that Archangel Metatron said to me, and I'm reading what I've written down here, is he says, AI will respond to the breath of humanity and be the ultimate mirror to where and who we are. So every action, every response, every post, every question, every reaction that we have is fed into this AI algorithm. And it might be interesting, before we move on, to just review what the top Google searches were of 2024. Now, this is worldwide Google searches. It excludes searches in China, Iran, and North Korea. But other than that, it's pretty accurate. Why I'm bringing this up now is that it shows where the collective consciousness was, what they were looking for, what they were fixated on, what they were focused on. And of course, what you focus on grows, what you fixate on grows. If we were able to bring in new, fresh energies to be concentrating on, and for 2025, for example, the end of it, the most searched concept would be, for example, unity consciousness or Christ consciousness or love or how to get on better with your fellow man. Can you imagine what a better world that would be? Because it would show where we were at. Okay. And yeah, this does tie into AI because, as I say, every time you tap something into Google, AI is listening. It's listening to the rhythm, the breath of humanity. So in 2024, anyway, this is what we've got. The most Googled searches in the news, it was number one was the US election. A lot of focus on that. The second was excessive heat. And it says here that 1,300 people, for example, died of heat during the Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia. So excessive heat was the second most Googled thing in 2024. The third most Googled thing with regards to news, this is the category of news, was the Olympics. In terms of people, who do you think were the three most Googled people in 2024? Number one, Donald Trump. Number two, Princess Catherine, our Princess Catherine of Wales here in the UK. Number three, Kamala Harris. Musicians, top three musicians, Diddy, Usher, and Linkin Park. So I'm not judging any of these as either good, bad, or whatever. I'm just making the point that every time we tap, every time we search, every time we focus on something, the algorithm is listening, AI is listening, and it creates like a mushroom cloud above our head, which then rains down upon us that which we have put into it. So remember that. It's very, very important when we think about the year ahead. So now let's go back to the numerology. A number 9 year linked to Mars, linked to fire, linked to masculinity. Imagine if we could put peace into the algorithm. So instead of focusing on potential war that might happen, which is there, it's there because it's a number 9 numerological year linked to Mars. Instead, we all gave peace a chance, as John Lennon so rightfully sang. The other thing, though, about Mars, which strikes me as just really interesting in a 9 year, is that I believe I'm right in saying that Elon Musk has made it his life's purpose, really, this is what's written on SpaceX's website. It says, Mars and beyond, the road to making humanity multi-planetary. And the point is that in 2025, there's going to be unmanned spacecraft to Mars through 2025 in a number 9 year that is linked into the planet Mars. Whatever we may think of it, his plans, his ambitions, whether he succeeds, whether he doesn't succeed, it feels as though it is divinely timed that this is the year that we scan the horizon and think about the energy of Mars. Now, I've written down here that whatever Elon Musk wishes to accomplish, which ultimately is for colonization of other planets by mankind, I have written down here what I heard Metatron say is we won't be allowed to colonize another planet at our current vibration. And of course, survival upon any of these planets wouldn't be possible because of, I don't know, gravitational pulls, whatever's up there on Mars, I've no idea anyway. But it would, of course, if you think about it in terms of frequency. If you see mankind as having a frequency, if we would be able to elevate our consciousness and our vibration enough, one day it might be possible to exist on other planets, but then and only then. Us at the moment in our 3D consciousness, and particularly from an egotistical perspective, which is that maybe we've trashed this planet, so we now need to go and find somewhere else to survive on, that will not be allowed, okay? But it doesn't mean that there won't be these planned unmanned spacecraft to Mars through 2025. So you're going to be hearing a lot more about SpaceX. You're going to be hearing a lot more about Elon Musk. And whatever you think about him, he is a man for the time that we're in, and he is on track with his own soul contract, one of which is the road to making humanity multiplanetary. But as I say, in our lifetime, I doubt that very much, but he's planting a seed. But the point is that whether that seed be allowed to grow will not be for us to decide. It will be for a higher power. Whether you see that higher power as the ultimate Godhead, whether you see it linked into the Galactic Federation of Light and Ashtar, whoever you see guiding our galaxy and the greater planets and stars, it won't be us that decides whether ultimately we can survive on other planets, even if we can get there. It will be a council's decision in terms of whether they want us there. Okay. So let me just try and tune into this tiny little speck of Mars that I've got here as well, and just see if there's anything else that wants to come through. I have no idea about the climate up there in Mars, and the point is we're going there to discover that. But I'm hearing a dry, inhospitable place. But more than anything, it's the dryness. Does that indicate lack of water? I don't know. Maybe they're going to find water on Mars and it won't be as dry as we think it's going to be. But I just feel I'm getting the energy of dryness. And, you know, what makes a human being able to survive is being fluid. You know, we are, 70% water? There's something there about the energy dehydrating living things. So I'm being shown dehydrated food. I'm being shown the body just as this like shriveled prune. So anyway, for whatever reason, dehydration. Is this also linked into one thing I have predicted in the future, which is water wars? The fact that we go searching for water in different places because the water on our planet is drying up. Is this all going to happen next year? No, it's not, but it's just something I'm being led to talk about, linking into this. Okay, anything else I want to say about the number 9 numerology? Number 9, coming back to us and our own individual lives. Number 9 is about completion of a cycle. So next year will be us moving on to the next cycle. This year is about finishing it off properly. Now, many of us, myself included, might feel as though we have finished it off. That was what last year was about, the end of last year particularly. But I'm hearing that no, that was very much just the starting gun, as it were. That all of the loose ends that we have in our own life, things that have been left adrift, things that, I don't know, just will not serve us to bring into the next cycle in a 10-year, which will be 2026, are going to have to be tidied up, cleared up, sifted through and completed in this year to come. So it's a massive year of clearing again for the planet and for us, but it is about completion. So into that there will be energies such as forgiveness needing to come in, because you can't move on unless you can forgive. There will be the energy of gratitude needed for the experiences of whatever has happened to us in the previous cycle. There will be the energy I'm hearing of needing to come together to deal with the challenges that 2025 brings. So the energy of no man's an island will very much come into being. We will need to be coming together to complete what needs to be completed, to close the chapter, to start the new page next year. So 2023 this year and the year before have very much been about increasing separation and division and polarization. And I'm not saying that it completely evaporates next year, but it's more that we start to understand that we've almost gone as far away from each other as we possibly can, and there needs to be this moving back into the center. There needs to be a moving back and a bridge built towards each other. Now, it may very well be that there will still be people and situations in our world that are very, very polarizing, but they will serve like an elastic band, basically, to bring us back to each other. So remember that as well, that the polarity is actually serving this eventual understanding that we can't just carry on becoming more and more separate from each other, more and more polarized, and also more and more separate from God's spirit, whatever you want to call it. So there will be, and I feel towards the end of 2025, there'll be this growing realization, tiredness more than anything, with the separation and the polarization. Many of us are already feeling it, I know, but I'm feeling that strongly. What else to say about number 9? Yeah, going back to the colour of 9. 9 is red. So a lot of energy linked into base chakra, healing the base chakra. A lot of energy linking into looking at what is home, where do we feel safe, looking at the physical body, needing to take care of the physical body, our physical health, where we have neglected it, needing to bring centre stage attention and focus to looking after ourselves better. So in a number 9 year, again, what hasn't worked in previous decades maybe as well, what hasn't worked in terms of solutions to health. I mean, we learn all the time, don't we? I'm talking about things such as diet, what's good for us, what isn't good for us. But again, it's like there's a watershed moment coming where we really get tired of running our bodies on empty fuel, is what I'm hearing. The other word I've written down here linked into number 9 is inflammation. Inflammation feels as though it's a very red energy. So tackling inflammation within the body as well. Inflammation is said to be the precursor to pretty much every disease going. So all we can do to try to reduce inflammation within ourselves, but also where we can try to reduce the flames in our world, in our communities, in our families. Ultimately, if we're going to complete and close a cycle, we're going to have to tend to the fires. We're going to have to learn to pour healing balm onto that which is inflamed. So I feel as though, and I know this feels like a big ask as I'm recording it today, but it's as though, again, towards the end of 2025, it's as though softer words, softer energies start to come in. It's as though we're tiring of the rage, but very much like a fire that has to burn itself out. Before then, a lot of anger that will be arising. And again, the advice I would give to you is to try to tend to your own anger. Try to tend to your own triggers. Try to own them. Try to learn from them and then move on from them. So 9 is also about action. And actually, in terms of the Archangel Metatron card, which is number 9, it's this one, action. And it shows somebody running along a beach. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to run, but it does request that you channel this energy that you have, which might feel angry, it might feel irritated, it might feel frustrated, it might feel contained. Movement needed, as the card says. Movement needed, action needed. It's a year of action. And it's coming off the back of a period where we've been required, if we've really been listening, over the winter solstice period, the Christmas period, the New Year period, to be much more hermit-like. I've been teaching and reminding us to go within, to quieten down, to switch off some of the stimuli that can, again, inflame and overstimulate what is a soul within yourself, which is very sensitive and gentle and requiring peace at this time. But we do definitely have the energy of action. I'm also feeling this action is linked into new projects, spurt of a creative phase coming through. So if you're a writer, you're a musician, I've just made a new word, a musician and a magician, a musician. Are you a musician? I love that word. I'm going to take that word, a musician. Maybe you're an entrepreneur. Maybe you've been trying to get a business off the ground. A number 9 year, even though it's a year of, yes, it's completion, it's also a year of just taking action for next year. So planting seeds, helping them grow for the year to come. But making sure your garden is clear of the weeds before you do that. Okay, moving on also to talk about the wood snake. So from the 29th of January, the Chinese New Year comes in, and we move from the wood dragon to the wood snake. Now, it does strike me that it would be an amazing spray to make, the wood snake spray. I'll try and get that out. I'm not promising it, and it's certainly not going to be out before the 29th of January, I don't think. But we did create a wood dragon spray last year, and it was very, very popular, and it helped people to step into the energy of luck and power and success. Yeah, I've got it over here. Let me just grab it to show you. Many of you bought this spray. And of course, we've still got the wood dragon going forward until the 29th of January anyway. It's interesting. I was thinking, okay, well, we probably won't continue it because obviously we're going into the wood snake energy. But remember, these Chinese animal totems and years, they come around every 12 years, something like that. So it's a bit like astrology signs. It might be that it isn't the month of Cancer where the qualities of Cancer come to the fore or the qualities of Aries come to the fore. But ultimately, they're always there in the background, really. It's just another energy has taken centre stage. It's interesting, I keep using that word centre stage. There's something about that. Let me just write that down. I'll tune into that for you. There's something about being centre stage next year as well. So, you know, we might just keep this one on the back burner and bring it out again, you know, the next time it comes round or when we feel we need it. But anyway, the wood snake energy. What strikes me is we're moving from dragon to snake. Now, both of these animals are reptiles. And I turned to my Ted Andrews book, great book this, Animals Speak by Ted Andrews. And there was a couple of things I just wanted to pull out what he's talking about in terms of reptiles, because I believe, again, this is learning for us. Just hear me out on this one. Ted says reptiles are one of the most ancient forms of life. They are also the most adaptable, which has enabled them to survive through millions of years of evolution. Just think about where we are right now, okay? We are in a critical period of time where we are evolving as a species, whether we like it or not. And many people are being dragged screaming backwards because they don't want to be evolving, they don't want to be moving forward, but we are, whether we like it or not. So there's something here about the reptile energy, the dragon, the snake, teaching us to be adaptable. And they have survived through millions of years of evolution. So what did I want to pull out about the snake? I mean, what it talks about here is that the snake, as we know, is about rebirth, resurrection, initiation, and wisdom. One thing I found very interesting is Ted talks about the fact that before the snake sheds its skin, so next year is a year for us all to be shedding our skin. There may very well be things coming up with skin issues as well. I remember when probably was towards the start of my, I don't really want to call it spiritual awakening, because I feel as though I've always been pretty spiritual awake, because I grew up in a family who were very spiritual, but it changed, and I've talked about that. It was when I was a kid, it was more about going to church, and then as I grew older, it was more about a growing interest in the esoteric, I suppose, and all of the things you know me for now, including the energy of Jesus and Metatron and the galactics and everything else. But I do remember, as I was just starting off on this path in the, when would it have been, about 2005, something like that, my skin became very inflamed, rosacea in particular. But if it wasn't that, it could have been something else, acne or something like that. And the more that I stepped into my power, the more that I became comfortable with this new version of myself, and didn't hide from it, the more that the skin started to heal. Okay, so there's something definitely about skin is a barometer of where we are. I'm also being shown the membrane of humanity. It's as though we are pushing against that membrane, and the baby wants to come out, but at the moment the waters haven't yet broken. So anyway, back to Ted Andrews. What he says is, before the snake sheds its skin, its eyes will begin to cloud over. It gives the snake a trance-like appearance. To many mystics and shamans, this indicated the ability of the snake to move between the realms of the living and the dead, of crossing over from life to death and then back to life again. I find that really interesting, because if you look into the eyes of a very old person, particularly a very old wise person, they often have a quality to their eyes that is quite milky. And it has not necessarily got something to do with cataracts or anything like that. There is just a quality to the eye. And of course, that's the whole cycle of life and death. Towards the end of life, you then shed this skin, which is your physical body, and you're rebirthed into spirit, into new light, basically. You just evolve. But yes, anyway, ultimately, the snake is about rebirth, resurrection, initiation, and wisdom. And I do feel as though it might be quite interesting when we get to Chinese New Year to come back, and we'll have a good look at the symbolism of snake, because there is much to say on that. But in this video, we'll move on now. Okay. Let me just go back to what I said about being centre stage. I keep saying centre stage. There is this feeling of being pushed into the limelight. Maybe not for everybody, but for a significant number of you that might be watching me. When people say that, it doesn't necessarily mean what you expect it to mean. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're literally going to be pushed onto a stage. It doesn't literally mean it has to be in a very public arena. Centre stage, Metatron. There's something coming in your life that requires you for it to be centre stage. There's something that you're going to be required to focus on, that takes centre stage. And it feels as though it's like an understudy part that you haven't been fully wanting to look at, embrace, or acknowledge. It could be something such as inner child. It could be the inner child energy that has just been shunted off. You're over there, you're okay, aren't you? Throw you the odd piece of bread and you're all right. And it's like the inner child comes out. It's like, no, this year I'm taking centre stage. This year I want to play. This year I want to have fun. Let's just bring this card in at this point. This is from a deck called the Creation Codes. I'll put the link below. This is the frequency of creativity, creative frequency. And it's card number 9. We're in a 9 year, or soon or about to be. What is your creative frequency? What is it about you that is completely and utterly unique? that is going to be brought centre stage. And it may very well be the part, as I say, that you haven't wanted to look at or embrace. So it's not just what needs healing. It's also about where you're meant to be. It's following the node. You know, it's following, is it the north node where you're meant to be, or whichever node it is where you don't really want to be there, but you're going to have to be. That's what's coming in. And what's going to help you is you remembering what it is about you that is unique, what it is about you that is different. I had a comment come in on my last video, which was very much full of victimhood energy. That is the last thing that you need in a 9 year. Although interestingly, the energy of victimhood is also the colour red, okay? So you can either go into a victimhood energy in terms of poor me, nothing ever happens for me, nothing ever works for me, it's all right for you, you're going to stay in that rut. Or you can use the energy of 9, which is action orientated, to effectively give yourself a kick up the backside. And I'm going to be doing that myself. I'm not asking you to do anything that I'm not doing for myself also. One thing I said I was going to be starting in 2025, when I'm going to offer to the community, is a program of spiritual fitness. Now, this is not going to be me prancing around in latex and not latex. I'm definitely not going to be prancing around in latex. What is it? Lycra is what I meant to say. Get that thought out of your mind now, okay? Either of them. No, I'm not going to be doing any of that. I might do a video of me making some soup or something. No, I'm being serious. I want to do a video or a series of videos that helps me and it helps you take action. Get a grip on holistically with regards to being spiritually fit. And that includes physical fitness, it includes mental fitness, it includes spiritual practice and spiritual discipline. And I'm definitely going to be offering that to you. Okay, so right, let's move on. Right, this is something I really want to talk about. Metatron's really bringing this in, and he's tying it in with AI. Declining birth rates. We're going to be hearing much more about declining birth rates. Now, many of you already know about this, but again, it's been something that's been shunted off into the side. You know, I'm seeing a stage and it's like that's been just shunted off behind the curtain. Nobody wants to look at that. Nobody wants to talk about that. Next year, we're going to have to start looking at it and talking about it. It's going to be a lot of chatter about declining birth rates. Now, I've written down some stats here, which are truly eye-opening. 183 out of 195 countries have a birth rate which is below the replacement level. Fertility rates have fallen below the replacement rates in most countries on Earth. In 1954, the birth rate ratio was 4.84. In 2021, it was 2.23. And in 2100, I don't know why I can't say that. It's estimated to be 1.59. If it falls below 2.1, then the average size of the population falls. 23 nations, including Spain and Japan, are expected to see their populations halved by 2100. That is staggering. And it also strikes me that particularly with Japan, this is one of the countries that has got the greatest number of robots at the moment. I'll come back to robots and AI in a moment. So 23 nations, including Spain and Japan, are expected to see their populations halved by 2100. Countries will also age dramatically, with as many people turning 80 as there are being born. So we have a dramatically aging population coming up with it's completely unbalanced. So a lot of very young people obviously being born and a lot of very old people, not a lot of people in the middle. Who looks after the elderly basically is going to be a huge thing that all societies are going to have to be looking at. But the other thing that Metatron was bringing to my attention is just this halving of population sizes. Who's going to be doing the jobs? So I've been somebody on record being a bit of a downer with regards to AI, because I can see a lot that I don't like. You know, I grew up before the internet, so, you know, I have that experience, and I remember those days of being more simplified in many ways and more glorious. But we are where we are. We have to evolve. We adapt or we die. And we are now in the age of AI, whether we like it or not. Does it not strike you that AI, rather than taking all the jobs, which it might be doing short term, but then if you are in touch with your creative frequency, you're going to have to learn to adapt and find new work, or a different type of work, or different types of work, not just one job, maybe a few different jobs that you're juggling. But these robots, AI, it's coming in because there aren't going to be as many people to do the jobs. There just simply aren't. So declining birth rate is something that is absolutely a huge talking point through next year, and it absolutely needs to be as well. It really needs to be. But I'd like you to try to start straddling it in your mind with regards to the new technologies that are coming in that are going to be able to help with some of the tasks. I'm going to come back to this. This is a whole video in its own right, I understand, in terms of who looks after the elderly, who does the jobs, all of that. I'm just raising it as a topic of discussion in 2025. Next point I've written down here is regards to the fall of celebrity. I've written down, don't even invest in their fall. Let it crash and burn and walk away. Don't feed their demise. So absolutely, I'm talking here about the P. Diddy's of this world, J-Lo, Beyonce. They're all, you know, it's all going to come out, and more, of course. Not just in the music industry, in the entertainment industry generally. But again, I think the more that we invest in their downfall, and by that I'm talking about the focus. Remember what I was talking about at the start of this video, the top search trends of 2024 and what they were, what we were searching for, what we were Googling. If we're all just tapping in, for example, P. Diddy, wanting to know all about it and what happened and what he did and all the rest of it, what you focus on grows. So it's almost as though, yes, it's coming to light to be exposed, but because we're feeding it, we're actually feeding a monster that's underneath it, which can then rise again. The wisest way to approach these exposures in our world is to absolutely acknowledge them, to know that they are there, for them to be exposed, for justice to come in, absolutely. But as Metatron is saying here, to not invest in their fall. To let it crash and burn and walk away. Don't feed the demise. You don't have to keep looking back at the monster, you know, whatever you regard the monster as. It's darkness, effectively, that's being exposed in our world. If you keep looking back at it, what's that phrase from Star Wars? Was it Yoda who said something along the lines of, the thing about darkness is that when you look at it, it's also looking at you, you know, and it can then get its hooks into you. So I talked a lot in 2024 about the energy of discernment. I'm getting another D word to talk about a lot in 2025. And it's de-entanglement. I don't even know if there is such a word, but I've just invented it if not. De-entanglement. Okay, let me write that down, and I'm going to come back to that. So, of course, discernment will still be important through 2025, but de-entanglement, that's what Metatron means. Allow the exposures to come up. Most of them, a lot of them you know about anyway, some of them you don't. You can have a shock response. You can have a horrified response, but then that has to be let go of. You don't keep shock, whatever it is, in the body. You have to transmute it. You have to allow it to leave the body. Otherwise, it stays and it becomes toxic within you. Think about a shock that you have in your own life. If you keep reliving that phone call that came in, or that thing that happened, or that test result that was shown to you, it grows. It grows and it grows and it grows. So not investing in their fall, let it crash and burn, walk away, don't feed the demise. Know that the people are on the stage to expose these people, bring them to justice, and ultimately, the ultimate judge, of course, is God. Okay, so that's really important. I I'm hearing the world will be forever changed by these exposures as well. Hold on, I'm just trying to get something here. Something's coming in. Metatron, what are you trying to say? I said Metatron, but I've gone to Uriel, Archangel Uriel. Archangel Uriel. So Uriel is about many things, but what I'm hearing here is Uriel is helpful in 2025 for leading people back to the light. Leading people back to the light. There's going to be some new guides that are coming in more prominently for many of us. Uriel, I feel, is going to be very important in 2025. Let's make a note of that. Okay, I'm sure he'll be reminding me anyway, but I'm feeling Uriel's energy very important next year because he does help to clear out, you know, the analogy of he's like the canary in the mine. He goes down, he sees if things are safe, and then if the mine is safe, effectively you can go down, you can clear it. It's that type of energy, but he's also about leading back to the light. And actually the title on this particular spray is Loving Service and Light. So he's going to be helping more people to remember their service, to be of humble service, to return to the light, basically, return to the light. Where to move to now? Okay, interesting I said where to move to now, because I'm just going to very briefly mention royal family. I do videos on the royal family. I don't do them all the time. Some people love them, some people hate them. Take it, leave it, whatever. And some of this I have already said in previous royal predictions, but I will just say this. Where to move to now is Prince Harry. Where to move to now. It's also Meghan, actually. She's burnt her bridges, doesn't quite know where to move to now. But I feel this is maybe another man, actually. The marriage, definitely, there's a split coming up. I've always predicted that, even before they got married, that they wouldn't stay together. And I don't say that with any pleasure at all. If there's children involved, it's always a difficult thing. And ultimately, you want people to be happy if you are a spiritual being and heart-centered. But I don't feel they make each other happy. Haven't done for a long time, and I feel a split coming up. I'm quite surprised it hasn't already happened. Maybe I think it probably has happened behind the scene. It just hasn't been made public. But this thing about Harry coming back to the UK, I know he's on record of saying it's the last place he wants to come back to. His home is in America. We'll see. We'll see. Whether 2025 is the year he does come back, tail between his legs or not, I don't know. But I am just putting that there. Where do we go to now? It's literally that energy with both of them. And it might also just be with their marriage. Where do we go to now? What do we do now? But confusing time for them ahead, not a particularly happy time for them ahead, a very muddled time for them ahead, a very confused time for them ahead. There's healing needed basically around both of them. Okay. Seeing Charles, I mean, this is in the public domain anyway, having continuing treatment for his cancer. I'm on record also of saying I don't think he'll have a very long reign. I'm not going to be here predicting when somebody dies. I don't think that is ethical. But I've always said that I feel William steps in sooner rather than later. I feel Charles is hanging on, actually, because he knows William isn't ready. Certainly wasn't ready through this year. Has had some major wobbles emotionally. And still are ongoing, actually. He's still growing into what he has to become, and it's taking it some time. So Charles is hanging on there to pass the baton at the most optimum time for William and for the country. I feel what I've written down here is that at a time, I need to do a video on the UK generally because we're in a hell of a mess here. But at a time when what it means to be British gets more muddled, gets more manipulated, gets more attacked, gets more threatened, I feel as though the royal family, for many people, not all, but for many people here, and maybe in the Commonwealth as well, there is almost like a renaissance. There's a core following who like them or love them, who really start to realise that how important they are to the country, that part of being British is we have a royal family. And actually, let's get behind that, because a lot of the other stuff of what it means to be British is no longer here. What does it even mean? So don't attack me for that prediction. I'm not interested in whether you hate the royal family or love them. I'm just telling you what I'm getting, okay? Princess Catherine, slow recovery, getting there, not back to full power in 2025. Still very much, I'm just seeing her in the shadows, taking steps back into the spotlight, the centre stage, but not where you would expect her to maybe be yet. So give her time. Again, I'll come back to them. The other thing I've written with regards to the royal family, going to be seeing much more of the young royals, Charlotte, Louis and George, coming into their own. The Three Musketeers, I'm hearing, they definitely come as a unit, those three, and their personalities blend very nicely together into one recipe. They are the future of the royal family beyond William, and they're quite interesting. If, there's still a royal family by the time that they come to age, they will rule as one. And what I mean by that is it may very well be that there's still one who is the figurehead. At the moment, that would be George, but there would be they're a very tight brand, but also a very tight band, a very tight band of brothers and sisters. It's very round table with those three, very round table. And the fact that there are three is really interesting. They're the triad. So there's stability with those three. Okay, what else do I want to say? Want to come back to something I predicted, unfortunately, which has come true in 2020, I believe, at the time of the start of the pandemic. And I said, do you remember me saying that the high street would be forever changed? And that I saw, a demise of all the major brands. And what would happen would be a springing up of entrepreneurial spirit. So lots of smaller brands, smaller shops, more like sort of a market type energy, not free market, but, market trader type energy, maybe housed in one building, renting a space, selling your wares, that type of thing. I mean, I don't know what's happening in your country. In the UK, certainly in my town, I can absolutely see that. The high street is pretty much gone. I'm talking about the main town centre. And I don't live in a small town in the UK. I'm in a fairly big town in the UK. I know not all towns and cities are affected as badly as mine, but certainly mine is not the only one, and there are many that are far worse. Just increasing reduction of the big brands, increasing reduction of choice in many commodities, actually, but particularly in commodities that powers that were maybe deemed as less important. There seems to be a lot of choice with regards to technology, maybe, but less in regards to just basics. I mean, have you noticed, like, trying to buy a nice pair of knickers anymore is just, it's really hard. It's like the choice is so minimal, including on the internet. It's just like, it's just poor. But anyway, why am I talking about this now? Because I'm seeing it play out. What I said in 2020, I'm seeing it play out. And I just feel we're in a transition time where at the moment, even though I'm all for entrepreneurs, and I'm an entrepreneur myself, I sell sprays and cards and all the rest of it. So that's all brilliant. But it's like we haven't quite got our head around this change, this very significant change. And I do feel as though there's going to be, even though online shopping is the norm now, I feel as though people are starting to wake up to what they've lost. What they've lost. And by that, I'm not talking about mass consumerism. I'm just talking about choice, really. Choice and quality. I mean, I'll get off my soapbox in a minute, but one thing I have noticed, have you noticed, a lot of the clothes that they're selling now, they are, you used to be able to buy a lot of, cotton or wool, and of course you still can, but there is something about the the frequency of a fabric. So when you wear a pure fabric, be it cotton or wool, for example, it holds a frequency, and that frequency is good for the body because it's natural, it's organic, whatever. But now a lot of clothes are this recycled polyester is everywhere. When you think about that, what is recycled polyester? Effectively, it's plastic. It's like a plastic component to it. The frequency of that is so much lower. And if you believe you are the colours that you wear, and I absolutely believe that, the colours can influence your mood, they can change your mood. If you put on a dark, dreary colour and you're feeling a bit dreary, it makes you feel even worse. If you put on a brighter colour, it cheers you up. But so too with textiles and fabrics. If you wear a lot of this synthetic, plasticky, recycled crap, I don't think it's good for the body, basically. It's also not very breathable. So they're selling it because it's recyclable, so it has to be good. But watch that, really watch that. So just a tip for you, try to, if you can afford it, go for items of clothing which are purer in terms of their material. I'm also seeing a return to the old days where, and I'm going to be hopeless at this because I was absolutely rubbish at it at school, but making your own clothes again, starting to knit, sewing. I can't sew to save my life, but I think we're going to have to be forced to do and learn some of these old skills again, because the choice just isn't there. The choice isn't there. Plus also a thriftiness coming back, which is good, not being able to afford some of the old things. So thriftiness coming in. Let me just have some water from my new mug. My girls got me this for Christmas. Cheers, isn't it great? In case you don't know where I come from. We're going to move on. I'm going to have a quick look at Canada. I haven't got much to say about Canada. Let me just get his photograph up. Not Justin Trudeau, Pierre Poilievre. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Now, I wish I had this reaction on camera for you, because yesterday when I was just planning what I wanted to talk about in this video, I have a lot of Canadian followers. I think you're my third or fourth biggest audience, actually. So hello, Canada. Very grateful for your love, your support, all of that. And you've been asking for a while, please read on Canada. And really what you're saying is, please, when's Trudeau going to be out? Most of you, that's what you're asking. I'm sure I've probably got some people that love Trudeau as well. And anyway, I haven't read on it. And because I didn't really think he was going anywhere fast, certainly last year. And of course, he is still here. But you have got an election this year. And many of you are saying in the comments, this guy, Pierre Poilievre, he's going to win. Now, I think he probably will, but I'd never seen him before. So yesterday I got his picture up and I was so shocked at what he looked like. Now, this isn't about what he looks like in terms of he's good looking, he's bad looking. It's not about that. It's just his energy. The way I will describe it is, when you have a picture of somebody in your mind, and often it might be wrong, but you have a picture of them in your mind, and that also includes their energy. For some reason, maybe it's just linked into Trudeau. Is Trudeau quite tall? I don't know. But I just had this, he just doesn't look how I imagined him to look. And I was really shocked at his energy. Now, this is what he looks like, okay? That isn't a particularly smiley photograph, but it is the one that I first found. And I was like, oh, right, okay. Now, the words that came to me were humourless. I know he's not laughing in that picture, but I just felt very dry. Does he not have a sense of humour is the first thing. To me, that's important. Is it important in a politician? Maybe less so, I don't know. But actually, people that don't have a sense of humour are usually the people I don't get on with in life. You need to be able to laugh at yourself, certainly. And if you can't laugh at yourself, we can get into difficult areas. But then I heard two words that should strike fear into any living being. I'm being a little bit silly here, but no, let's get serious. I heard Keir Starmer. He feels very like Keir Starmer to me. Not necessarily in terms of his politics, because I'm not tuning into his politics now. I'm just tuning into the man, the energy. Dry, humorless, intense. I can't read him very well. It's like I can't see into his eyes. In the same way I can't really see into Keir Starmer's eyes. There's an absence of something there. And I feel as though if this guy gets in, which he probably will, it feels as though Canada are going to have the same baptism of fire that we've had in the UK. And maybe this is what's needed for our world, because when a politician has been in for a long period of time, Trudeau's been in for quite a while, people are bored of him, they want him out. It's like you look to the next saviour, you know, and it's like, this guy's got to be better. Sometimes I did hear from the frying pan into the fire with him as well, from the frying pan into the fire. And that's not to say that I think Trudeau's great, because I don't like him at all. But this isn't about me and what I think. It's more just that I heard from the frying pan into the fire. It's very similar to what's happened in the UK. We had the Tories in power for 19 years, 18 years. People wanted them out. Anything's got to be better than what we had. And then we got Starmer and we got this government, and people have really woken up fast to, we really don't like this. Doesn't mean we particularly liked the people before either, but we really don't like this. Keir Starmer had what was called a loveless landslide. I feel the same with this guy. So I'm sorry, Canada. I just have to say what I get. He doesn't have the energy I was expecting him to have. I suppose it was because I could feel some of your comments. I will pull a couple of cards on him. I could feel some of your comments. Where's my deck of cards? I suppose what I could feel was your hope. And I don't want to quash that hope. Hopefully I'm wrong and he's going to be brilliant. And as I say, this really hasn't got anything to do with politics, left or right. I don't even know if he's left or right. I'm just going on the man. I'm going to pull 2 cards for him. What is there to say, Spirit, about this guy? I'm hearing banker. Now, I don't know whether he's got a good financial background, whether he is being bankrolled by the bankers, whether he's all about money, whether he's all about the financial markets. I don't know, there's just something very dry about him. Okay, Pierre, Poilievre. What is there to say, Spirit? 2 cards. I'm only going to do 2 cards. Okay. Right. And that one on the bottom of the deck. Oh God. Oh God, oh God, oh God. Canada. Oh God. And the Chariot. You're going to be all right, whatever happens. Remember that, because the true power lies in you, the people, not in these politicians. They're all as bad as each other, to be honest. What we got? We've got the 7 of Swords. Deception, lies and trickery. Next to the 8 of Wands, coming forward quite quickly. We've then got the Devil, and then we've got the Chariot. We've got fast-moving energy. Could it be that something comes up about him before the election and he's exposed? I don't know, for whatever reason. Is that it? Maybe. Is it that he's about trying to expose devil energy and darkness? I don't know. But I don't trust him. Okay, we can't leave it there. Let's just try and pull one other card for the Canadian people, because the Canadian people are not the politics. Let's pull a card from the Metatron deck. Let's just pull a card for Canada. I'm just hearing, oh, Canada. I'm hearing lost. There's a song I'm hearing. Is it called Lost in France? Hold on. Lost in France lyrics I'm hearing by Bonnie Tyler, of all people. I was lost in France. In the fields the birds were singing. I was lost in France and the day was just beginning. In the street a band was playing and the crowd all danced. Didn't catch what they were saying. I was lost in France and the vines were overflowing. I was lost in France. He's got ties to Macron, has he? Has he got ties to Macron? Has he got, something just came, a little confirmation came in on my phone when I said that. There's ties to France. I mean, Pierre, whatever he's called, Pierre, so I'm not meaning to be rude, I don't know, I can't pronounce his name. Pierre, it's a French name. So I was lost in France. He's got ties to France. A card of abundance is on the bottom of the deck. Is France somehow funding his rise to prominence? Is there something, I don't know what that means. I was lost in France. One card from the Metatron deck for the people of Canada, and then we're going to move on to the next subject. A card for the Canadian people. We've got chakra light body, and we've got boundaries card. So this very much feels like something I've already said about the 51st state of USA. Hands off, we're Canadians, not Americans. Do one. Okay, we don't want to become the 51st state of USA. We are ascending as a nation. We are ascending as a nation. What I can say to you is what I would say to British people at this time. Whoever's in power, however bad it is, however much you don't like what's going on, keep concentrating on your own evolutionary journey as an individual, as a family, as a community, as a town. That is what ultimately is going to change everything. Okay. I'll come back to Canada nearer to the election. Okay. Donald Trump. I don't know whether I've got much to say about Donald Trump on this video. I've done so many videos on him in the past. Let me just try and pick up on his energy here. Okay, so I think the last time I mentioned Donald Trump was, well, it wasn't actually Trump I mentioned. I did a video on J.D. Vance, and we had the cherry blossom came up, didn't it? Which led us towards Martin Luther King Day, Inauguration Day. J.D. Vance was there. At the time I wondered, was J.D. Vance going to be the one that was actually made president, not Trump? As it's getting nearer, it's looking like no, it's just that was a sign that it was going to be a Republican win. I still feel as though Vance has got a big part to play going forward, and may very well be the regent in waiting, as it were, the prince regent in waiting, if Trump were not to complete his term for whatever reason. Of course, Vance will stand in. I still feel he's maybe a future president. But I will just say, I think all I want to say in this video is just to retell a dream that I had about a week ago with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is probably one of the only world leaders I've ever dreamt about. I don't think I've dreamt about any of the others that I can remember anyway. But in this dream, well, the previous dream, all the dreams when I dream of Trump, he's basically approaching me, asking me for help. I've always interpreted that as asking for spiritual assistance, asking for light, basically. That's hopefully what I deliver. A light worker like you are, asking for help, spiritual assistance, protection, whatever you want. In this dream, it felt like he was reaching out for somebody who was more grounded, because in the dream, he was somewhere surrounded by... They weren't even sycophants. They were just very infantile people. I didn't see who they were, but I was clear that they weren't the main players on the stage. So it wasn't Vance. It wasn't, what's he called, RFK Jr. Don't think it was Elon Musk. I'm not 100% sure on that one. But it was more just faceless energies around him. Lower tier energies, people who are fighting to sit beside him, people who are fighting to be at the top table, basically. And there was a squabbling over who was going to sit next to him. And it just felt very infantile. And he was getting a bit tired of it all. And I was sat on the front row of whatever this was we were in attendance to. And a chair became available quite near to him. And he beckoned me towards him, wanted me to sit in it near him. And what I got more than anything was he was reaching out and he was wanting some grounded assistance. It was like, just help me out with these baby type energies that are around me. That was the dream. So squabbling around him, playing up around him, The bromance with Elon Musk, I think we can all see, is going to end probably in tears at some point, because you've got two gigantic egos there. Whatever you think of Trump, he's got an ego, and Musk certainly has. And it feels as though these more powerful men in the background, who I respect more, such as RFK Jr., who I absolutely respect, have been shunted into the sidelines a bit. But it's like they're just wise enough, mature enough just to be biding their time. And I'd also include Vance in that. So it's almost as though, for whatever reason, the bigger players who actually can make more of a difference, and particularly RFK, are just not involved in the circus that is around him right now. They're keeping out of it for whatever reason. So that's what I see there. I'll pull 2 cards is what I'm hearing for Trump. Let's just see. 2 cards. This is the Wild Unknown Tarot. So for 2025, let's just see. I do get the feeling that America being in the spotlight and centre stage, no disrespect to my American followers, I love you dearly, but I think you're probably sick and tired of the whole hoo-ha around Trump and Kamala and all the rest of it. You know, the #1 searched piece of news in 2024, that was the whole world. It's as though other countries start to take centre stage a little bit more in 2025. Not that we're not interested in what's going on in America, but it's just like America just sort of gets on with it, and etc. I've just noticed the time. I've literally got to leave in 10 minutes to go and see a film. Hadn't realised it was that time. So I think I'm going to have to finish this video off tomorrow, but I have just said I'm going to pull 2 cards for Trump for 2025. So let me do that, and then I'm going to have to go. Sorry guys, I didn't realise what the time is. Interestingly, I'm going to go off and see Wicked. Maybe that's got something to say with the yellow brick road and all of that. I don't know. 2 cards. We've got the Mother of Cups and the Lovers. And the Hierophant. And do you know what? I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to come back to this tomorrow, okay? I haven't got time to finish this video today. We've got the Mother of Cups, we've got the Lovers, and we've got the Hierophant. So on that note, I'm going to end this part, and I'll come back and finish this video tomorrow. Thanks very much. Bye-bye for now. Hi again, everyone. It's the following day. It's now New Year's Eve as I'm recording this. Yes, I've got some incense on, if you can see smoke coming across this screen. I'm going to finish off this video. We'll go on for a maximum of half an hour, and anything that I haven't been able to cover will then be in a part 2 or in a standalone video coming up in the next few weeks. So we were talking about Donald Trump. Oh, that's right. I went off to see Wicked, didn't I? We nearly walked out, actually, 2/3 of the way through. None of us enjoyed it. But it was still nice to have some time with my girls. And that was precious, but no, I didn't enjoy the film. But and does it have any bearing on the subject that we're talking about, Donald Trump? I would say it has a bearing pretty much on all political figures and the whole political social system in our world right now. I'm not going to go too deep about it right now here, but essentially it's a reminder that the power lies with us, the people, and let's now get back to the cards anyway. I don't want to talk really any more about Wicked. So the 3 cards that we pulled were Mother of Cups, the Lovers, and the Hierophant. And I'm quite glad to have had a little bit of time to think about what these cards actually mean. Because what I'm seeing is the focus is on these Canadian geese on the Lovers card. Sorry if you can't see the cards particularly well. I had to change my camera settings and haven't got it quite right yet. In fact, I tell you what it is. It's this lady's eyes when the camera wants to focus on eyes. So it's either focusing on my eyes or her eyes. So maybe if I cover up both of our eyes, maybe you can see that. If it's worked, you'll be able to see 2 Canadian geese. Okay. So that came with the Mother of Cups and the Hierophant. So, in relation to Donald Trump, I think this is still about the rumblings linking into his rhetoric on the 51st state. Canadian geese. And the Hierophant, this card here, the Hierophant, has lightning. So it's as though it's a bit of a wake-up call for the leader, in this case would be Trump, to maybe not interfere across borders in that way. I'm also picking up this Mother of Cups, even though I've pulled it for Trump, it takes me to UK because swans are owned by the king. And that's my link back to the UK with the swan for this card. It's how I'm interpreting it. I feel as though his relations with maybe a few different countries are not going to be as smooth sailing as he thinks they are. And for whatever reason, Canada, UK, and I'm also hearing France, are going to be sticking points for him in 2025. I mean, you probably don't need to have to be a psychic to say that. His politics and the politics of somebody like Keir Starmer here in the UK are poles apart. But I just feel as though there's a bit of a wake-up call coming for him. The key that he thinks is going to be readily his is going to maybe be blocked in negotiations with these countries. I just feel as though there's a real war of words coming between Canada and US, an escalation of that, in fact. So I'm going to pull a couple more cards today. Oh, the other thing I was picking up yesterday off camera was I'm still picking up the energy of there being some type of backstabber in his camp. It feels as though it's somebody fairly close to home, or if not close to home, somebody who's been planted there. When I say close to home, I just mean somebody who he does actually trust. So he needs to watch for that. Let's pull a card now, final card for Trump from this deck, which I've been guided to use today, which is the Sacred Destiny cards. Let's just see anything else that wants to come through. And yeah, I'll come back to USA and do wider predictions. Okay, we've got the card of action for Trump. So, you know, he comes back into power. So I'm trying to hide my eyes and her eyes. He comes back into power, and actually there's something about eyes, all eyes upon him. Is he going to take action? Is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? Yeah, he's going to do a lot of it, basically. And remember, we're in a 9 year, and I was talking earlier in this video about number 9 is linked into the energy of action and Mars. So he definitely feels as though he's wanting to take lots of action. Let me just find one more card that goes with that for Trump. Hold on, they just fell on the floor. 2 came out. No, 3 came out. We have the card of taking risks. That's interesting. I saw on the news today that I think Joe Biden has just said that the bald eagle is actually the animal totem of USA, and a lot of people are saying, well, we thought it always was. So I don't know. This card, taking risks, along with the card of action, says that he's not going to be dithering, basically. He's going to be taking the action that he sees is fit. Some others would say is risky, but he feels is worth a gamble. We've also got the cards of enlightenment and flow. Enlightenment and flow. So they're quite nice cards for him. Flowing with the times. Let's have one. Enlightenment. What does that mean in relation to Trump? And I'm trying not to get political here because I know half of you want me to say something linked into that card. Oh yes, it means that he is the enlightened one, bringing enlightenment. The other half of you think he's the complete opposite. So I just want to go with what I'm getting for this particular card. I think what it's saying is that this is almost beyond Trump. This is America, which is moving towards enlightenment and flowing where it needs to go to get to that place, beyond the spectacle of anything that might be playing out. We've got the card of relaxation as well. This feels like the American people. What was it I said earlier in this video about I was talking about exposures, and the words Metatron used were, what were they? Something to do with, where's my notes, guys? Not investing in their fall. Let it crash and burn and walk away. Don't feed the demise. And I think that's guidance here for the American people as well, generally, with regards to this Pluto return that you're going through. All of the upheaval, all of the chaos, all of the division. Try to take time out to relax and understand that whatever is occurring on the surface, beneath the surface, your pathway towards enlightenment, evolving past whatever Pluto does and reveals, is assured, basically. That's what I want to say with those cards. Okay, I'm just going to spray the Archangel Metatron spray and see if there's anything else wants to come through on Trump. And then we're going to move on to the other things I want to talk about to finish this video off. Plus a couple of things I forgot to say earlier. So anyway, anything else about Trump? Let's use the fire element, actually. The fire element, Archangel Metatron fire element, actually says action. So this feels as though it's going to be a very, very good spray for 2025 for all of us to take action where it's needed in our life. Okay, so in relation to Donald Trump, anything else to say at this point in time, 2025? For some reason, I'm being taken across the seas. I'm just seeing the ocean, and I'm seeing a voyage across the ocean. I'm seeing the ripple effect, basically, and the waves that are created in relation to him being president, what he does, the actions that he takes, the risks that he might take, and the ramifications of that, which sort of ripple out all over the world. I'm not seeing these as crashing waves that are bringing destruction and, you know, something horrible. I'm actually just seeing the sea, and it's as though I'm in the middle of the sea, and it's just like these waves that are just rippling out, rippling out, rippling out, rippling out, going across to far off lands. So his influence being very strong through 2025, his ideology spreading like wildfire. And I think this is more in relation to overseas countries. And it doesn't mean that you get lots of mini Trumps coming up in different countries. Everybody is unique and has their own particular flavour. But you know, as an example, in UK, you're going to have the rise of people such as Nigel Farage coming much more into the fore. He's already very present, but much more so. That would be one example in my country, but it will be different names and different people in different places. But more than anything, it's sort of like an ideology that's spreading, and it seems to be linked into the energy of freedom. Okay. Right, let's move on. I mean, that is one thing, just again, going back to Wicked, even though I don't really want to. I didn't like the film, but the one thing I did like about it, and I would give it a couple of points, is I felt probably its underlying message went over a lot of people's heads, maybe, that were there. I just do, because it was all about the sound and the music and the dresses and all of that. But there was an Orwellian undertone to it, which I sort of approved of, which was to do with the gagging of voices. And they used the animals as an example of that. So animals not being allowed to speak anymore, animals being caged and not being allowed to run freely. So there was definitely an energy in that film about the fight for freedom. And I notice, I've done it unintentionally, but I've come on in green. Maybe I am the green witch. But also green is a colour of freedom as well, of course. So it's more that energy that I'm feeling is just getting out. And the harder that they try to clamp down with new rules, new regulations, the more that people's innate desire to be free is going to rise. I know not linked into US, but I will just mention one person, very controversial, but Tommy Robinson, many of you do follow him. I don't follow him. I don't really have an opinion on him, to be perfectly honest. But I did see a clip last night on X, I think it was, and it was Ross Kemp of all people. Ross Kemp going in and visiting him. Now, I believe Tommy Robinson has been sentenced to 18 months in solitary confinement for contravening some court order. But 18 months in solitary confinement is pretty much torture. And I think he's about 6 weeks in and he's already really struggling, very emotional, he's really struggling. So, you know, I say I haven't got opinion on him. I do. I mean, I appreciate that he's trying to stand up for freedom. It's just I don't like everything that I read about him. So I'm going to be violet pill and just be neutral in my response to him. But I don't believe, for example, in the locking up of people the likes of what is happening in the UK for saying things on social media and then getting locked up, and then child abusers getting off or rapists getting off, that type of thing. So, you know, I think this is all tied in to this energy that I'm just feeling rippling and growing, and more people starting to sort of, hold on a minute, that doesn't feel right. Why is he locked up for 18 months? And why is that happening? And why are we not allowed to say this? And why are we not allowed to do this? All of the stuff that I know that you all know. More people, though, starting to wake up and realise that. And that is Trump's influence. That is part of what he's here to do. He is a catalyst for that, whether you like him, whether you don't like him. He's opening mouths and opening ears that before were closed. As I say, you've got to take away what you think about him in terms of his egoic personality, maybe, and just understand the influence. Okay, let's move on. A couple of things that I missed out of the earlier video. When I was talking about 2025 being the year of the wood snake, just making sure my microphone is on, it is. I forgot to say that expect a lot of Kundalini awakenings as well. So definitely the energy of Kundalini rising. I also think this is Kundalini energy of Mother Earth rising, temperature rising, but definitely the Kundalini energy, the snake that we have within us, rising up and activating dormant DNA. That's definitely something to watch for in 2025. I feel as though the word I'm hearing is spontaneous, so spontaneous Kundalini awakening. I feel as though I would like at this point to try to calm the energy around that, because I know sometimes there can be a lot of fear associated with spontaneous Kundalini awakening, but I feel as though Spirit have got this, okay? They know the people who are ready to be activated. Or indeed, if you're not already activated, taken to the next level. So remember, you're only gifted what you're able to cope with. And even as somebody who appears to be very, very asleep, who then has a very spontaneous Kundalini awakening, remember to look past the human shell, as it were, the 3D personality and identity. Just move that smoke. And see into the soul that is ready, the higher self that is more than ready, okay, that is actually champing at the bit. So spontaneous Kundalini awakenings, more of that happening in 2025. And you might be surprised at who it happens to, because we always sort of think, oh, is it going to happen to me? That type of thing. But I'm also now being shown people on the collective world stage who may very well be who you would class as a baddie or somebody that you haven't really got any time for, don't like them. And then all of a sudden, I've said this years ago, you start to think, actually, they make a lot of sense. They make a lot of sense. You know, I'm on record of saying I'm not a big fan of particular people. We're not even going to go back there. And now I'm like, no, actually, I do think that they're talking a bit of sense. I can see what this is all about. That's good. That means you're not stagnant, you're not narrow-minded, you're growing. It's also a sign of the fact that you've got good chi running through you that is fresh, not stagnant. Your ears are not closed. This painting behind me, by the way, that's been through this whole video is from the Christ Consciousness deck. I've done a Christ Consciousness deck, and this is the card of being open-minded. So in 2025, we need to be open-minded. If you're not open-minded, if you've got closed ears, you are not going to grow. But as I say, Kundalini energy helping us to grow and evolve. The other thing linked into the number 9 energy and numerology, I unintentionally realised I hadn't really talked much about the war energy. I did say, did I not? Let me get my little piece of Mars out again, my Mars meteorite, that Mars obviously is a warlike planet, isn't it? It's a warlike planet. So let's just tune into the energy of war through 2025. Now, of course, we're ending 2024 with the world on the precipice of increasing war in various places. But I sort of want to say, when has it not been thus? Having said that, it does seem to be particularly bad at the moment. We've got wars, of course, still happening in the Ukraine and Russia, Taiwan, China teetering on the edge, Syria, Israel, Palestine, the Middle East just feeling as though it's going to explode at any moment. War increasingly at our borders. So I'm just going to try and tune in here now to the energy of war. Let's see what Metatron wants to bring forth. I feel before I even spray this energy, which is the Metatron Flame Attunement Spray, that it actually hasn't been decided. I actually feel as though we're still straddling a couple of different timelines. One of them is, the worst possible case scenario timeline with regards to war. I do feel as though that is weakening and weakened by the work of light workers, by those who are able to stay in their heart, by the work of the galactics who are trying to stop us blowing ourselves up, by the fact that this planet is meant to survive and the people on it. But the other two timelines which feel more likely, one, an escalation of war, and the other timeline, a de-escalation of war. Let's just see what we can get here. So a number 9 year is going to highlight, Metatron is saying, the desire, and I'm being shown like salivating, lips, like drool coming from some people's mouths. This is symbolic, of course, who relish going to war. So it's as though the warmongers in our midst, we're going to see them for what they are. We're going to really start to understand the workings behind the war machine. And we've got people that are going to help us with this. One of them I do feel is RFK Jr., who is important in this. Re-education is what I'm hearing. Re-education. Because ultimately this planet needs to be re-educated big time. And one of the things we need to be able to drop is our appetite for war. For aggression, for hatred, which, as I've always said, starts with us. Okay, it starts with us. But yeah, definitely feeling like more exposure of the warmongers. I'm being shown Benjamin Netanyahu in my mind, particularly. Seeing the motives behind all of that. I'm being taken to Russia, Ukraine as well. But I'm also being taken to faceless entities within, for example, NATO, names which I can't give you because I don't know their names. I can't even see their faces. I'm just seeing it's like the ones at the top pulling the strings who don't ever get their... I wanted to say their pants soiled, or their fingers dirty, because it's that. It's like we've got to get to a place where we understand the grossness of war, the fact that, you literally wet yourself with fear, that you have blood on your hands, the gore of it. It's all going to be very much in our face. But I think it's almost as though we need to see it and feel it to be able to turn away from it. Remember, number 9 is a year of completion. Effectively, what we are going to be asked as a species is, are we finished with the energy of war? And that is a question which we haven't answered yet. So, but we're going to be given entrees, is what I'm hearing, entrees, dishes coming in front of our face, showing us the realities. And then it will be for us to decide what happens. And one of these things that is one of the deciding factors, and again, I have said this, is if it comes to greater escalation, will, for example, Gen X show up? And I've said I doubt that they would. So that's also a deciding factor. Would people actually sign up for it? I know that in some countries, of course, they are, or they're being enlisted against their will. But I'm talking about encroachment into other countries, particularly, for example, around Europe. Would Norwegian youth sign up? Would Scandinavian youth sign up? Would British youth sign up? You know, there's a big question mark over that. So if they don't have the fodder, interesting what's just come through. If they don't have the fodder, then they can't fight their wars. So what's come through here is we've got trust and we've got change. And I'm going to take the other 2 cards, which is healing chaos and truth. Trust that change is coming to our planet. Trust that in the healing chaos that we have in our midst right now, including the horrors of war, that truths will be revealed. Who's making the money off these wars? Who's making the money? Who's becoming a fat cat as a result of other people's children being maimed or murdered? Who has the stomach for war? And, you know, ultimately, if we're rising our frequency as a collective, which we are, it might be slower than we would wish, but we are, there's going to be less and less appetite to want to go and fight, and more appetite to want to build this, which is a community of love. And I don't care how hippie that sounds. That is the truth. Right, moving on. I think I've got time for a couple more subjects. This next one is really contentious, and I'm going to have to be careful how I say it. I don't want the video to get pulled. It's linked into next pandemic energies, in particular in relation to BF. B for Bertie, F for Freddie. Winged things that fly around and lay eggs. BF. I could say BS, though, to be perfectly honest. Apparently 65 humans have potentially caught BF in USA the last year. Remind me how many Americans there actually are? I think there's a few more than 100, aren't there? Disease has always been a feature of this planet. Disease always will be a feature of this planet. You and I have had many lifetimes here. You and I have lived through, ages where we didn't even get to 30 because of the low life expectancy. We've lived through times of plague, of famine, of pestilence, of all of it, okay? What we didn't have in those times, though, excuse me, it's the incense. What we didn't have in those times, though, was the media, which are causing a lot of the fear, which is spreading the energy of these pandemics. The true germ at the heart of pandemics is fear. And I said that in 2020, and I will say it again in 2024, and I'll say it again in 2025. What I will say to you is, I believe that the US government have already committed a large amount of money, I think I screenshotted how much it was, to come up with a VAX for BF. I suspect that all the people that didn't take the VAX last time for you know what. Won't be taking this one either. I suspect that more people wouldn't take the one for BF than took the one for last time's thing. What they will do is they will ramp up the fear and they will target your weakest defense. Your weakest defense is the fact that if you don't take it, children will be harmed. Whereas actually, I don't know how far I can really go on this video. I'm just going to say, if you would like guidance and truth with regards to what might happen with regard to BF, I would listen to people such as Dr. John Campbell. I would listen to RFK Jr. That's where I'll be taking my guidance. I will also be taking my guidance from my higher self, not from a government pamphlet that is put through my door, or endless phone calls, or propaganda, or advertising, or enticement of free burgers, free handbags, anything else they want to give to get something into me that I don't want to be there. I would prefer to take my chances. But they will use fear in a big way. And as I say, they'll go for your weakest vulnerability, which is if you don't do this, you are, it's going to affect the children. Children are being affected by things all the time, including a lot of stuff that will be exposed and come up through the year of 2025 and beyond. This is a huge subject, and it's not something that can be looked at in isolation with regards to just one thing. And I know I'm sounding vague here because I'm not going to go there in this video. If we do get another pandemic linked into BF, I will steer you through it like I did last time in 2020, and we will stay as loving and heart-centered as we can. But you know your body better than anybody else, and I don't know what to say. Just stay true to who you are. Stay true to your own guidance. Stay true to and in alignment to your truth. Okay. Where to end this video? I've written something here about UFO soft disclosure as the last thing to talk about, although I also wanted to have a little look at Mother Earth. UFO soft disclosure is such a huge subject, and this video is nearly an hour and a half long. What to say other than what I've already said in previous videos? Let's pull a couple of cards here from the Secret Language of Light. And I've also got the Commander Ashtar energy. We'll call Ashtar in. We're all going to be looking to the skies, but we have been for a while anyway. You can look at what I've said about drones and stuff on one of my last videos if you're interested. But part of the purpose is to keep looking at the sky. And I pull the card of your inner voice. There is only light. Manifestation. Okay, manifestation, inner voice, there is only light. Ashtar 2025. A year of disclosure. In part, he says, in part. It's already happening. I'm being taken to the skies. I'm being taken above the clouds. I'm being taken to the energy of light and expansion and stillness and peace. It's as though there is this beautiful hovering light across the whole planet, to be perfectly honest. I'm being shown the planet and just this huge, great big hovering light. If you want to call that a ship, he says, you can call it a ship. If you want to call it light, you can call it light. It's a bit like with the angels. People have an impression that angels have to look a certain way and they have to have wings on their back, or that's not an angel. But angelic frequency is angelic frequency. It can look as you expect it to look. It can also just look like a ball of light. It can also be a feather. It can be a rainbow. It can be, they can shape shift effectively and change form and appear in any way that they wish to or you wish to see them. So these cards of manifestation and there is only light, it's as though Ashtar's saying people are expecting to see the ship. And because they're expecting to see it, they're manifesting more evidence of unexplained phenomena. We are manifesting the disclosure. And it's really interesting because disclosure for many people has always been the government envelope that gets unsealed and then we're shown the photographs or the evidence. And it feels as though it's not going to work like that. It comes about more through this ability of mankind to manifest via their inner voice, their inner knowing, their higher self, that there is only light, and therefore show me yourselves in light form. It's also about us recognizing that we are light phenomena, that what you're looking at right now on screen of me, I am a light being. I am made of light in the same way that you are made of light. Everything is made of light. So we're looking for the lights, but we also need to be looking for the light within ourselves as well, the macro, the micro. So we are manifesting these sights in the sky. I'm not talking about the drones, I'm talking more about the orbs and the just unexplained phenomena, just light basically. Including what you capture in the sky in photographs and what you can see in cloud forms and above cloud forms. So what the Ashtar energy is saying to me is as though, because I believe, and what I've been led to say in the drone video is that, you know, those drones, for example, are man-made, government-operated. Whoever you think the government is, it's not Ashtar, it's not the aliens or the galactics. And it's as though Ashtar's saying they're putting on a really bad B movie. It's like a really bad B movie, because that's not us. But we are something other. We are light, basically. We are light. So don't be frightened of light. How can you be frightened of light? Because you are light. The world is made of light. God said, let there be light. So this is just another expression of God, basically. Okay. Anything else that I want to say? Let's just finish with anything else from Ashtar. Star beings, galactic energies, star families, uniting, coming together in alliance with light, in alliance with truth, together. And now what I'm being shown is, looks like the Milky Way. Being shown the Milky Way. I'm being shown the greater universe, the cosmos, the stars, the constellations. Just the growing awareness in more people that there's something else up there, that we're not just here on a planet in isolation. It's more about that next year. People's growing awareness and remembrance of all that is up there. And more than anything, I'm seeing written in the stars and the sky, wonder, wonder. I wonder, wondering. Linked into also the SpaceX and the missions, just rising above the human condition and human density, which is to do with putting the bins out and getting the shopping in and doing the laundry and all of that. But it's also part of the human condition is, oh, wow. I remember part of all of that because I am that. I am part of that. It is part of me. That's more about what's happening next year. But yeah, this big presence in the sky is light. They are in the sky. They are light. Okay. I think I'd like to end, please, with a couple of messages from Mother Earth. So I'm going to grab a Mother Earth deck. I've got two. This one, which is the Universal Oracle cards, feels as though it wants to come out first. It might be a message linked into Galactic. Might not, don't know. Let's just see what wants to come out in this deck. So final messages for this video. Let's just have one card from this deck, please. We have the card of Universe. It's exactly what I just was talking about, the universe. And it says, what does it say? You are not alone. Ask for help. Oh, that's interesting, because when I said I could see the Milky Way, it was like the only way I can describe it is like we're here on Earth, we're standing on Earth, and then I just saw what looked like a Milky Way type constellation, like rising stars, rising stars, rising stars, going up in this beautiful sort of spiral up there, and then it felt like it was Milky Way type energy. But I'm feeling as though that's a bit like an SOS as well. It's as though we're asking for assistance, we're asking for help. We're just so stuck in this density down here. We're needing help to clear the cycle. So the card on the bottom of the deck is cycle, repetition, patterns, phases. What are we in? We're in number 9 year, which is asking us to close the cycle, complete the cycle. We can't do it without assistance, is what I'm hearing. You know, there's nothing wrong with putting your hand up and asking for assistance. So our galactic brothers and sisters are there to help us close out this cycle. And I feel as though a lot of the light phenomena that we're seeing is helping us with that. And more than anything, it's about you're not alone. Because when you feel alone, you feel as though you can't, you know, you can't cope. Okay, final cards then from the Earth Magic deck. Let's just have a couple of messages from Mother Earth. So let's just tune into Mother Earth for a moment and how she is doing as we change the year. And to her, this thing about changing the year, you know, the clock strikes midnight, everyone goes bonkers, and to her it's just like another breath. It's just another breath in and out. It's just another regular day. You know, the changeover of one year to another is so minuscule in relation to the history of our Earth, and her wisdom and her knowledge. So she's not rocked by the changing of a year, is the first thing to say. Okay, let's have a couple of cards then. So 2025, Mother Earth, what can we expect, please? It's gone very, very still. Very, very still. I thought that might come up. This fog that we've got in many places around our world at the moment, we've had it constantly for weeks. I woke up this morning and I thought, is it going to be another grey day? Yeah, it's another grey day. I can literally see a tiny bit of sun coming through the cloud there. It's trying to come round and the cloud's just going over it again. It's constant greyness. And I know it's happening in other parts of the world as well. Let's just see what it says about fog with regards to this particular deck. I know what people are saying about it in terms of is it manufactured, is it toxic, all of this type of stuff. But let's just go to the esoteric. So it says, fog is simply a low cloud, a blanket of water crystals that hasn't gained the density of raindrops. That's really interesting because we've got the card of rain, and on the bottom of the deck, we've got the card of crystals. Let me repeat that then. Fog is simply a low cloud, a blanket of water crystals that hasn't gained the density of raindrops. You see, I've seen the videos, you might have seen the videos on social media of people shining torchlights into the fog, and it's full of these particles, and people are saying, oh my God, what are those particles? You know, is it toxic? Is it metals? Is that why we're all feeling ill, etc.? It's one train of thought potentially, but what we've got sitting here is I've always believed in the power of transmutation. So even if it was that, it's the energy of purple rain coming in again. Transmute it. If you believe that you are breathing in toxic particles, for example, whilst you're walking in the fog, you're going to make yourself sick really, really quickly. If you can breathe in, knowing that you have the ability to transmute whatever goes into your lungs, assuming it's even there in the first place, can you step into the power that you are as a magician and an alchemist to be able to do that? Okay, it's the work that I did on, there's a video I did from a few years ago called From 5G to 5D. Check that out if you want my opinion on transmuting things, because this is a whole other message right here. The fog, it's saying it's simply a low cloud, a blanket of water crystals that hasn't gained the density of raindrops. We've got the card of rain and we've got the card of crystals. The thicker it is, the more it shrouds us in its damp and billowy arms. It can be so thick that it makes it nearly impossible to see directly in front of us. During those times, silence makes its own sound as we pause and allow ourselves to be enveloped in this shroud of impenetrable density. We may even feel as if we can do nothing but be still and await what is to be revealed. Yet, even within the thickest fog, we can be assured that it will eventually burn off as the sun's rays infiltrate the veil. So more than anything, energetically, what this deck is saying is that fog is about confusion and uncertainty, unable to make decisions. If you think about that and where we are as a world in a 9-year where we're being asked to take action, you know, complete the cycle, lots of people are just walking round and round in circles, irrespective of the fog. The fog is just a symbol of what is going on within us, which is foggy thinking, clouded thinking, can't make a decision, don't know what to do, don't want to do it, want to be lethargic, want to just stay in this energy of inertia and not wake up, not evolve to the next level because it's too damn scary. It's too damn hard. I don't want to do it. Then I'm going to lose my friends. Then I'm going to be alienated. What if I speak my truth, even though I want to speak my truth? All of that type of energy is what is in the collective. And it's causing just this mass amnesia and fogginess. So we need the rain to purify this, but crystals are being given to us as well as something to really focus on through 2025. And I'll probably do a separate video on that linked into particular crystals. This card has got a lot of violet energy, which leads me to think that amethyst would be a great crystal for next year. Amethyst, of course, is a purifier, but any purple crystal feels as though it would be quite good. Am I being given anything else in particular? No, at the moment I'm just being given the purple crystals to talk about, okay? Right. And then the next card, I will just talk about this one as well briefly. And that's interesting as well, actually. Let's do this one first. Again, a foggy picture, but this lends me to go back to the bald eagle as a symbol of USA. So USA being in confusion and, you know, not knowing what's going on, but communing with the land, communing with the ancestors, communing with God, that in this void-like place where nothing makes sense, or I don't know where we're going or what could happen, this is an opportunity to go very deep and connect into spirit, animals, ancestors, and the land. And then the last thought that I will leave you with, because I probably will do a whole separate video on the energy of the snake and the wood snake when we get closer to Chinese New Year. Again, we've got the energy of DNA activation. We've got the Kundalini snakes there rising up through the spine, affecting the DNA, resolving, transmuting, assuming you've done the work, past karma, because this number 9 year being about completion means we have to be completing karmic cycles, and we will be guided as to how to do that. But it is the basics of what we already know. It is, I've got 2 decks that I've produced, 2 self-mastery decks. One is the Archangel Metatron mastery deck. The other one is the Christ Consciousness mastery deck. Within those 110 cards, there are 110 properties that can help you with regards to what am I meant to be doing today to get myself out of stuckness or to elevate my frequency. What is it that I need to do in regard to this relationship to shift it, to clear the karma, to help the communication that needs to come forth, to say what needs to be said, to do what needs to be doing, etc. So again, completing cycles 2025, we're going to be talking about karma and facing that, closing that, and that does require work. It requires work, spiritual work, deep dive into ourselves and our relationships, our connection with others. But I also feel at the end of this year, many of us are feeling as though we are already closing out cycles well, and karmic cycles as well, coming to a close or to a peaceful resolution or an acceptance or however other form it's taking in your life. Okay, let's end with Magenta Bridge. Magenta Bridge is, magenta generally is a colour that helps us bridge the new. So literally it's the bridge that helps us get to the next place that we need to get to. What we're stepping into is a new year. So let's just create this magenta bridge to help us do that, to be present, to acknowledge and say thank you to 2024 and the lessons it's given to us, what we've learned, what we've experienced. If there are painful parts of it, to be able to not necessarily put it to bed, because you can't put to bed something that you still have feelings around that need to be healed and held and acknowledged. But you can just ask Spirit to carry you into the new year with fresh eyes, with fresh spirit, with fresh feet, to be able to walk new paths, with open ears, with open hearts, with open minds. The spirit of the adventurer, ready for a new year to begin, saying goodbye to the old one, with appreciation of a year lived and a new year to become and be, and hopefully enjoy. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. If you've liked this and you'd like to have a look at my other work, do subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button. It's free to do. Thank you for your support, and I will see you in 2025 for more interesting videos. Lots of love, everyone. Happy New Year. Bye for now. Bye.